So here we go, rocking the red. Yeah, I had to throw that out there. We are in the playoffs as with the Washington Capitals. Kind of excited watching them going into Game 3 against the New York Rangers. I hope most of you guys are going to be out there cheering for the Capitals, rocking the red. It's pretty exciting. But we're also going to rock some red in the ways of wine here. We're going to start out. This one was in the red wine only package, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with as our wine club members. Our winery, Long Bomb, Edition 3, 2009. Just such a super cool wine. You know, the Long Bombs have really taken off, and each vintage has had its own expression, but still stuck true to what we want the Long Bomb to be, something that's big, bold, expressive, rich, approachable, and exciting. So trying to get a lot of those characteristics of what Whitey Hubert had. So because it is a tribute wine that was made for Mr. Hubert, so that's what we want it to be. And in 2009, though, I find that it's definitely the most forward aromatics, but the palate is, it's brighter and fresher. It's going to have a little bit longer life to it, but it's more about elegance as well. I mean, this is the wine of, if we're looking at the elements of a person like Whitey Hubert, this is the elements of his wisdom. I mean, this is not trying to be over the top, but more so just really showing what the potentials are and having a laid-back feel about it. 2009 was a cooler but dry vintage, which was very, very neat. What it did is it made this longer growing season where we were able to get some very, very neat fruit, particularly out of Merlot, which is what dominates this blend. It's 88% Merlot, which means we could also legally call it Merlot if we wanted, but that's a whole other story. And then there's 8% Cabernet Franc and 4% Cabernet Sauvignon. So that's because that cooler vintage. Merlot is a mid-season ripener versus Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon a little bit later ripeners. They just didn't have the power or the expression in which we were chasing after in 2009 like Merlot did. It comes predominantly from the Merlot comes probably from Mountain View Vineyard, which is the vineyard that we use down near Roanoke. Very steep slope, lots of sunlight, so it gets very ripe characteristics. It's kind of windy, so it maintains that cleanliness in the fruit, and because it's a little higher elevation, the nights cool down a bit more, holding on to the acidity. I find that this wine is really starting to come around really quite nicely. It has a lot of floral notes to it, more red berry fruit, I want to say raspberry, but almost like a currant as well. Let's say red currant, a cassis-like note, which is black currant, but has some herbal elements to it, almost a minty-like note, or coriander. It's a really neat aromatic wine, very, very alluring. On the palate, it definitely has that hallmark 2009 acidity, a freshness that almost gives it more of an old world feel to the wine. It's not about that richness and opulence in which you see from a lot of our. It has that elegance, it has that freshness and that cleanliness. Very food-friendly style wine, but also something that I think is going to do better and better over the next couple of years in the cellar as the tannins, which are velvety but abundant, and that acidity kind of come together and hold that fruit and allow some more tertiary characteristics to come forward of the wine, making it a little bit more complex. It's really intriguing. It has a medium body palate to it. It's not a huge wine, but it has enough weight and gusto that it's going to pair well with a lot of foods. I mean, you could take this straight across from doing your roasted porks or poultry on the grill and things like that all the way through. You could also be using this with a nice grilled flank steak marinated in some sesame oil with a little bit of lime even to bring out some acidity. I mean, it'd be really neat wine to pair through a lot of different occasions. It was fermented, like most red wines, indigenous yeast, fairly warm fermentations, long macerations. So the Merlot actually spent 31 days in the skins, just trying to get as much extraction as we possibly could. And then after that, relaxed in barrel, mostly neutral oak. So it's not about the oak in this wine. This is definitely all fruit. We just wanted that oak to allow some oxygen exchange. So those older barrels, the neutral barrels, allows that oxygen exchange without giving that oak characteristic to the wine. And it's helping to integrate those tannins and help that velvety texture really come forth. So, no, it's a really cool wine, and I think it's drinking beautifully now, but will also hold for a couple of years, and cheers.